Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, NBC Sports Radio Station, AM 1050, FM 106.5, home to the Asian Oprah. Number one talk in the IE. Thank you very much. And streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, TLive, Rumble, Podchaser, Spreaker, and more. Why so many places? Well, you know me. I like to do things to the max. I wanted to maximize my splatter zone for more hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, no K-words, no Kardashian talk, and no headlines. That's right, folks. If you want headlines, there is an infinite number of places to go, but this is the only place where you won't hear the headlines because frankly, my dear, I don't want you to start your day with a case of the 4 A's after listening: angry, aggravated, anxious, or afraid. Instead, I want you to feel amazing because life does not suck. And that's what we talk about here. All the ways in which it doesn't. We have topics and guests. I have topics and guests for the last 22 consecutive weeks. We're coming up on 14 years and 1,584 podcast shows. So I'm glad you're here. And as you can see from the good looking guy in the studio today, it is time for Straight Talk with myself and
James Hawthorn. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning to you. He is a fitness expert, trainer, actor. I met him as a co-founder of a film festival, Flicks for Change, I think it was called.
Yes, indeed.
Way back. Please welcome back to my studio, James Hawthorn. So I'm not going to ask him how he's doing because we cover that in our breakfast. You know, I like to start every show taking a bite of my gratitude sandwich, top of the bun. We look outside of ourselves and say, what am I grateful for? Bottom of the bun, because I like it on the bottom. I'm not even going to say that's an oxymoron anymore. TMI. The bottom of the bun is gratitude, looking inwards. What do I like about myself? We want to model that for you before you go to bed tonight so that you're not thinking about who done me wrong or what's wrong with me. I didn't finish that. This is not coming together. Instead, I want you to focus on what you like about yourself so you can fall asleep and feel good about yourself, which is my BS, my belief system for good mental health. So let's start. James, what are you grateful for?
I'm grateful that I do this exercise in the mornings now, because for me, I wake up and my mind immediately goes to the to-do list and I start worrying. And so just to say the day's waiting for me, as long as I get up early enough before my first appointment, I can take the time to do this and go out into the day, the place of peace, joy, and gratitude. That said, my trainer advice is if you're someone that has trouble falling asleep at night, by all means, nighttime will be the best time so that you can have restful sleep and dreams, or do it both. Do the top of the bun in the morning, do the bottom of the bun at night, you know. I have been working with a lot of clients on sleep issues, and I really believe that this exercise will help with going to bed and also waking up and in the best light possible to go out and take the day. My first gratitude is
that was your first gratitude. That was your first and second and third. This is supposed to be a short exercise.
Well, yeah, allegedly.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, I'll keep this real quick. I got this little $38 electric stimulation unit that I have hooked up right now to my right glute. And I am so grateful that you can buy these things for so cheap, and they provide tremendous therapy and muscle relaxation and relief. I might be in great shape, but the older you get, the more aches and pains you have. And this little thing, I use it every day, and it works nothing shy of miracles. And it's a lot cheaper than getting a weekly. I love massage, but it's expensive. It's a lot cheaper than getting a weekly massage, seeing your acupuncturist, etc. I just hook this thing up to go about my day, and man, the relief it provides, I am grateful that such a thing exists and it doesn't break the bank to buy.
I'm grateful that Chinese New Year's is coming soon to a close, only because I was out for the second night in a row past midnight, dancing my assets off, watching lions dance, having super good food. It was a all you can eat from 6 to 10, I believe it was, downtown LA, level 8. Shout out to Chef Jasper, who I've never heard of until now, and he did a 8-course all you could eat. I mean, I had the best, like, okay, sorry, vegans, meat of I was going to say something bad, but it was just really incredible. I was very impressed. It was definitely worth the what? How much? Because I was picturing a street market, right? And to pay, what do they call it? What's $100? Is that a there's a word for $100, not a buck, but a. Do you know what I'm talking about?
An English word?
Yeah. It's like
I mean, a grand is 1,000.
Right. There's something I'll find out while you're talking. But I really, and the night before was Mahjong Underground, Lunar New Year celebration. So another late night. And so I'm really grateful, honestly, for this show, because it forces me to wake up in the best possible way. And I'm not aging, not getting older, but I'm ageless, but I still, as you said, it's not like when I was in college and I could just like stay up all week and not feel the wear and tear.
I hear that, out past midnight 2 nights in a row, and your car didn't even turn into a pumpkin. You're still driving that cute little Miata. That's fantastic.
I am, and I'm loving it. But I'll tell you, it was like focus. And I don't, 17 years not drinking. So thank goodness I don't drink, because those are some late nights from downtown LA twice. Mm-hmm. That's to Long Beach. That's not an easy trek. But anyways, that's what I'm grateful for. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for in my personal training world, the corporate training I'm doing is just increasingly fulfilling and awesome. And I'm getting to work with more and more leaders in the company. And, the mission there is to, one, build community with the group classes. And I feel like we're really doing that in really creative ways. And then doing one-on-ones with all the leadership of the company. And we're finally getting them to adapt or adopt it, if you will, to adopt it and to partake. And it just feels really good to be part of trying to create the healthiest, fully remote workforce in America for this consulting company. So I'm just grateful for that opportunity, getting to work with so many new people and kind of reach into their lives and help them bring like health and wellness to the front of mind. It's not something that I ever take for granted. And it's always cool when you get to do it through new avenues, outside of the traditional one-on-one model.
I'm grateful that hips don't lie. And I found finally an anti-inflammatory that I can take without, having some side effects with the tummy because of the past ulcers. But I normally don't eat breakfast when I'm eating breakfast with you, taking a bite of the gratitude sandwich. But this is the solution for not only my hip, but I now have to have shoulder surgery. So, but I'm grateful for medical technology in all of its ways that helps me feel good physically while I continue this mission for happy 88 mission, 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years.
Yeah, we really are lucky how medical science has progressed, because I've worked with like older clients that had a knee replacement or hip surgery from like 25 years ago. And the difference between what they had to do then versus what they have to do now, it is so much less invasive. The recovery times are so much shorter. So fear not for anyone else out there that has a surgery in their future. It's really remarkable how far things have come in just 25 years time. So fear not.
Yeah. I know people go, you're so active. I remember my doctor saying, how can you need hip surgery? So I've had 2 hip replacements, and people go, what? Because I am ageless. But and now the left, like they used to last 10 to 15 years. Now they last 15 to 20, 25.
Mm-hmm.
So my left one was in the old genre. That's why it's sure enough, last time we took an x-ray, it goes, well, it's okay, maybe in the next, 3 to 5 years. And sure enough, boom, he was right. Let's go to the bottom of the button. I'm very proud of this part of the exercise. All of my co-hosts, well, maybe Dr. Tiffany actually enjoyed it, but I know both of my co-hosts on Straight Talk, who, by the way, are not straight, are more on funny, but they both hated this part of the exercise because, I wouldn't say I can read your mind on why not, but I know for Ricky, he's a perfectionist and he doesn't like to compliment himself. Also, well-meaning parents, some more mean than well, will tell you you're not all that. Don't brag. Don't toot your own horn. Don't look too big. So saying, I like this about myself or like that about myself is not exactly something that is comfortable for a lot of people. So I love making people uncomfortable. Just kidding. I love making people stretch in their self-love, because I really do believe that is the foundation for actually loving your life. So that's why we do it. So with that, don't make me a liar, James. What do you like about yourself?
I won't. In fact, my first thing that I like about myself is, I think, just to put the moose on the table, live out loud. The reason I didn't like it initially was it made me aware that my inner chatter, my inner dialogue was actually kind of negative, and not in a, oh, you're so lousy, you're awful, but it was more insidious, more like, well, you're kind of behind on this. You haven't done that yet. If you had done this, you'd be in a better place now. It's that kind of thing. But even if it's not screaming at you, that kind of dialogue being on repeat and replay can really make it hard to love yourself. And by doing this exercise, it made it clear to me that that's what was going on in my mind. And I like that through taking the time to occasionally work with therapists over the years when I felt like I needed to look under the hood, and being open-minded to exercises like this, I have become more self-aware of what's going on, the inner chatter. Meditation is a great tool. In fact, I use this exercise with the corporate folks I teach as a meditation to make people more present in the moment and present in things that bring them joy. So I just like that I have become more aware of what's going on up top, and have gotten better at kind of regulating that and making sure that my mind stays in a true place of positivity. Because all that chatter, it's not about anything real. It's just something in most of our human nature that tends to go towards the negative, but it doesn't have to be that way. And it's not a reflection of reality, is what I've learned. And I'm grateful for that. I've gotten better at that.
Awesome. I like that I can rally. That I didn't talk to you last week. I was actually I'm rarely down. I think maybe in the time you've been on with me, I've been sick, twice, maybe, right? In how many years? And I was. So anytime I get sick, I get in touch with my inner male. So if you listen to Monday's show, I sound like a guy, but I'm grateful and I appreciate that I am learning how to stay down. This is the hardest thing. Like even if I'm sick, it's a figment of my imagination, and I'll just keep going until then I'm really down. So this time I had a lot of FOMO Saturday, Sunday, and Monday because I didn't do anything and just watched everybody do everything that I wanted to do. But I took care of myself in a way that I don't think I've done before. So I appreciate my ability to cut myself some slack. How's that?
You and my mom are two peas in a pod on that, exactly the same. And she, if she's finally gotten to the point where when she needs to have some downtime, she'll take it. She'll be ready to go. But boy, it took her a long time.
Well, I didn't take her. Well, I won't say we're both ageless, but
right.
All right. Thank you for joining us for breakfast. I see there is our eyeballs in the studio. Welcome. Someone already gave us the finger. Not that one, but this one. We're really delighted to have you in studio today, especially today, because when you find out what the topic is, you'll get to play. Please join me every weekday morning. This is a good life habit, #Blissipline. And it will, I promise, if you do breakfast with me and take a bite of my gratitude sandwich, you will sandwich your day in the most positive way. Thanks for joining me. And now for the topic of the day.
I'm going to let you edit me on this because I read it literally right before my head hit the pillow. I didn't refresh and look this morning. So bad co-host, bad. I'll kick it off and say it's a popcorn day where we're going to kind of have an improvisational chat about all things dating, love, relationships. We're going to see where the conversation takes us and practice our present-mindedness. And then I know there were a couple things that specifically that Marissa had some very clever ideas on. So,
okay, I did. I don't remember them.
Let's take it away with the improvisation.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you want to talk about? Is the question of the day. I have a couple of people who have already messaged me or texted me on what they want to talk about. They'll be listening later. So they want my view on those things. But that is the topic of the day. It's kind of like our Seinfeld show about nothing. We've done this before. Whatever hits us in this present moment, which is a gift, is what we're going to talk about. I know that James has one thing that he wanted to talk about. And honestly, it's because I didn't really want to talk about that. That's why I made it a popcorn. But when he says what it was, you'll know why.
Yes. So yes. Okay, if I'll kind of share that. This just popped into my mind, the other day, because I recently got back from a great trip to Portugal with a friend. We're platonic. There was a time when there was some romantic spark there, but really we're better friends. And it just gave me the idea of traveling with someone that you're dating or, that you're getting to know, and when it's the right time to do it and the pros and cons of it. And a few years back, I'll give you a personal story. I was going to a friend's bachelor party in Grand Cayman Island, and I just met this guy, and we had been on a handful of dates. Really fun guy. We liked cooking, making meals together, all that. I don't know how much more we had in common than that, but we were so excited. We just decided, let's go scuba diving in Cayman. So I extended the trip and we stayed together and went scuba diving. And you get to learn a lot about somebody when you're living in the same space for days on end, especially if you've never done that before. And I hope this isn't a downer. I came back from the trip realizing that it's probably not the guy, for me. I still like him very much, but it didn't seem like the best fit. So in a way, it almost accelerated my timeline in dating that individual. So, I am grateful for that. But I have also heard stories, nightmare stories about where people do it and think it's a good idea and they're at each other's throats by the end of it, obviously way too soon. Or I guess maybe folks don't always do enough homework to really be like, who is this that I'm going to be in a car with for 8 hours each way, or have a 15-hour travel itinerary with, and then be in the same, inside the same four walls for 3 days a week, whatever it might be. So I've heard some horror stories with this too. I've always had pretty good success with it, but it's a daring move, if I may say so myself. And I just wanted to kind of throw that out there and see if anybody, if you're driving, please don't text in, but if anyone's had experience, good or bad, with that, we want to hear it. So that was just something that popped into my mind after my recent trip and reflecting on past times when I've been, young and a little crazy.
And the reason why I didn't want this to be the main topic is because travel, flying is still a little bit of a sad point for me because I just went to the hematologist for the 6-month checkup and my blood clot isn't even half dissolved. It's a slight improvement. So that kind of closed the door on any travel international for the foreseeable future. So that's why I went, nah, don't like that topic.
Very fair.
But I did find my good ideas on my text to you. So I said, where did I say it? Oh, here we go. I said, how about when do you really know someone? Good activities to speed that up so that you don't have to wait for a trip to figure that out. By the way, I was thinking that kind of happened during COVID. People who are married who thought they liked each other and then they spent hours and hours and hours together that they wouldn't have done had it not been for COVID, and realized we do not fit. Especially, okay, so how to speed it up, especially when you're going to travel. Actually, let's not just have a top. Oh no, that was the rest of it. So I was thinking, are there things and ways in which you can speed things up? And
other than a global pandemic,
other than a trip,
right?
And other than a global pandemic. So I'll go. The reality, I've found some success in saving time and getting to the point of things. And James and Dr. Tiffany, my other co-host on Wednesdays, gave me some feedback that on my profile, when I ask them certain questions, it's like a little too direct. So I changed it because I was asking, do you like this political party or whatever, very, very strict. So now I say, they usually compliment me or something, and then I'll say, and before I get started, and before I start getting my hopes up, I have learned that I have to share that I'm allergic to cats, 420, and political figure. So if you do or enjoy any of the three, sorry, we'll have to part here. I know. I need to learn how to get straight to the point. LOL. Okay. So I'm really glad because the responses have either been like zero, but I got a really nice response from someone who said that they liked me. And I want to read it because I was just like really impressed with the oh no, I already am much. Never mind. He said, I really like the way you get to the point. It's very refreshing here on the Swipe or No Swiping. He's a dating site. So that was nice. He goes, but I do enjoy 2 out of the 3. So, good luck. And that was great. And for me, that is so much better than the converse, which I've had, which is, you small talk, and this is the topic, right? You small talk, and then you get on the phone. And then, one time, the worst time was I talked for like a half an hour and we were jiving and we were talking about all the other stuff. And then I got to one of those core 3 and they're like, you're stupid, right? And then because of my political views and or the fact that I don't do 420, he goes, everybody does 420. Blah, blah, blah. And then when I said, well, and when I tried to like be nice and whatever, his last parting word was, no wonder you're single.
But what a way to cut through the riffraff, because just by being, honest and in a polite way, may I say, you're honest, you're to the point, but in a polite way, in a I know that this is pretty specific, but I need to get this out of the way. And it allows other people to show their true colors, good or bad, which can save you a lot of time. And as for you, I think it speaks to the power of authenticity in your dating life. I think it's so easy to slide into people-pleasing behaviors because we want that momentary hit of acceptance and love. But all you're doing is going down a false path, I think, and slowing down the inevitable of, even if someone likes the version of yourself you've put forth, the true self's going to always show up eventually. So what did you really accomplish? Sometimes the courage to be authentic, is a tremendous blessing. And I think can speed up the process of really feeling like you and the other person know each other in a genuine and real way. The power of authenticity is what comes to me with that.
The thing is, though, I don't like that word authenticity because it sounds like, this is just who I am. And that gives me license to say, do, or be anything I want, no matter how I'm feeling. I can be authentic. And I know that's my thing. But I also wanted to balance out the fact that, who they really are. People are the nice and then the not so nice. Like, that is just who we are. We are that nice, friendly, wanting to make a first impression kind of person. That is us too. And then there are things that, when an edge hits an edge, something's going to give, something's going to break, and something's going to hurt. Right. So I think that process of just figuring out, relationships are difficult enough as it is. that I want to give myself a fighting chance and not be with someone who basically says, I had another one, similar process. And then he goes, well, you're old, and then hangs up.
Like,
So
you're talking to playground men. This is ridiculous. I can't believe they're saying this kind of stuff.
No, I'm sorry. This is my dating life. And then the last one, I think I don't know if I told you. Well, maybe not, because it only lasted a week. I've had 2 that lasted a week, though. That's progress, right? Because now I'm out of 8,000 matches. I've made 80 calls or video calls. And out of those 80 calls and video calls, I've been on 44 first dates, 3 second dates now, James. Not 1, but 3 second dates.
There you go.
And then 1 third date, 1 fourth date. But
the call to date ratio is really quite good. 80 some odd to 44 first dates.
Well, that's because I clear them out before I get on the call.
That's
right?
fair. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways.
I mean, I like that process because with all the fun stuff that you're doing and the events you're doing and covering, and you have to have some kind of process so that dating doesn't feel like a chore or a burden. There's got to be some efficiency in there, and I think, I'm liking the sound of your particular process because I think it aligns with you and your values. And I think that's the most important thing right there, to find the process that feels true and good to you. And with respect to the importance or priority level that dating has in your life. There's periods in my life where it's a higher priority. And then there's other periods where I'm like, all right, no, I really need to focus on, this and that right now. I'm not going to not date, but it's just a little lower on my to-do list, if you will.
Right. I also, this last one, okay, to answer the question or the topic that we're starting with, how do you speed things up? It's for many women. Okay. I'm not gonna say all women, but there is a stereotype that we date potential, right? We want to, we're hoping, right? And I almost fell into that again, this last one, because you like them, but then as they reveal themselves, topic, what do you get to know to see if you're a fit or not? When he says, okay, I'm not taking any more calls from bill collectors tonight. And he was joking. And I went, you're joking, right? And he's like, nope. And then I thought he still was like messing with me. So I go, no, you're joking. Nope. So I went, okay, that's, really nice guys, super smart, good looking. But it was like, and so I thought, my first thought was, well, there goes, because I got like chocolates and flowers and everything. So I thought, oh, well, I guess I'm buying dinner tonight, which is like the worst possible reaction. That's my old codependent, right? The potential wanting people to make them happy. So thank God I didn't do that. Oh, all of a sudden I got sick.
Well, hey, his reaction could also be sometimes it's just the wrong time and place to talk to certain kinds of people. And he could just be like, after the day I had, I will call them back tomorrow and deal with it then. So maybe he's not running away or negligent with his bill responsibilities. He just didn't want to deal with it right now. Who knows?
Hello. I spent $2.8 million. Why is divorce so expensive? Because it's worth it. The last thing I want is to be dating someone who is not solvent. I'm sorry. That's not a deal with it tomorrow.
No, I always like to look for the benefit of the doubt, or at least see if there's an alternative explanation for things. But I feel you there. Yeah, it's a burden. That's a very big burden, and finding that out. Speaking of inviting somebody on a trip, can illuminate whether they have the means and funds to join you in the kinds of adventures that you want to go on.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking at the time. It is time to take a break for news, weather, traffic here on Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show, and my very special series on Fridays, Straight Talk with myself and
James Hawthorn.
We'll be back 2 and 2. News, weather, traffic, and a word from our sponsors. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Or maybe we don't. Yeah. Okay.
To the world was exploring the world. What if the question, what do you want to be when you grow up, little girl, turns into how many streets of life you want to explore? What if the purpose of life is not to die with the most toys to leave our squabbling relatives? What if the purpose of life was to do things that we enjoy most of the time? Have relationships that we enjoy most of the time, and use our unique talents, gifts, and abilities to fully express in the dash between birth and death. What if, as a direct result of this horrible pandemic, we could rise out of the ashes with a new PPP, post-pandemic possibilities? The sooner you turn, it's impossible, to I'm possible, the what ifs become possible too. Because you are loving, lovable, and loved, wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness. But it may start with getting out of bed and making it. What if starts with
Hi, everybody. You're tuned into a show about self-care where we talk about heart lines as it relates to dating, relationships, romance, and all of that. But I'm going to talk about self-care for your own health and well-being. I started the show being grateful for this tiny little TENS unit device, one of the many tools that I use to take care of my body. And I encourage you to reach out to me on Action Man Fitness on Instagram. Just DM that you heard about it here on Dr. Marissa's show. And let's talk about your self-care program. It's not just about your workouts. It's about your nutrition. It's about what you do to keep your body, heart, mind, spirit right. It's a 360-degree puzzle, and I want to help you find the pieces of that puzzle that maybe have gone missing, or the pieces of pie that are missing from that circle. So don't hesitate to reach out. The first hour is on me if you say you're from Dr. Marissa, and I look forward to working with you then.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA NBC News Radio, home to the Asian Oprah. Thank you very much. Number one in the IE and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, and of course my YouTube TV channel, where if you free subscribe and give me the finger, this one, not the other one, you will get an alert every weekday morning to tune into a show that does not talk about headlines. Not that I don't want to know what's going on. I will know what's going on eventually during the day. I just don't want to start my day with a case of 4 A's: angry, aggravated, anxious, or afraid. Instead, we want to start with you and learn something new and talk about things that matter to you. That's why on Fridays, I have a special series called Straight Talk with myself and
James Hawthorn.
Welcome back, James. And the popcorn continues. We're talking about anything you want to talk about. And I did have someone call in and say, or not call in, they messaged and they asked to talk about signs of when a relationship has run its course. So I wanted to know from James, they wanted to know what we thought were some telltale signs of when a relationship is over. So talked about travel, ways in which we get to know people to know if we're compatible or not. That seems to be part of the topic today. So James, what do you think? What are like the top 3 things with signs? We should write an article about this.
Yeah. The first thing that popped into my mind, since today is kind of a popcorn show, or talking about all things, was this. When I've dated someone for a while now, there's that honeymoon phase. There's the bliss of a great date where maybe you start with lunch and you end up hanging out all afternoon and evening because you're just vibing so well. Relationships take work.
Continue eating.
Oh, go ahead. Relationships take work, but there comes a time where if you constantly feel like you're having to grind and maybe walk on eggshells a bit, and it's just not connecting or vibing the way it should, that's been a sign for me that maybe me and this individual are not fully compatible. It doesn't have to be easy all the time, and it's not going to be easy all the time. I know that. But if it feels like you're grinding to kind of make it work, and you feel that way more often than not, or more than 12% to go with Dr. Marissa's 88% rule, for me, that's a sign that we either need to work on our communication, or maybe it's just not a fit. That's the first thing that popped into my mind.
All right. I would say the first sign is you're not having sex. So
that's a big one.
How big is it? Sex is
Friday, naughty time.
I'm waking up. Can you tell? I'm like certain. 2 days of driving past midnight. This is what happens. It takes me 40 minutes to get wound up here. The physical intimacy, whereas yes, it does change with time, and as you're, getting used to each other, maybe it's not that important, but it's still important. And if you cannot have the time or the desire to get naked and do the love dance in bed, I think that there's something wrong with your relationship. Now, if you are the age of George Burns when he was 90 And someone asked him on his birthday, do you still have sex? And his response was, that would be like shooting pool with a rope. So there is the age factor, but I'm talking about, it's one of my favorite jokes. I'm getting in trouble with the station, I can tell you right now. But it's Friday, folks. I know it's Friday morning, but just pretend this is Friday drive time in the afternoon. So I think it's when I have relationship coaching clients come in their 30, 40, 50, 60s. And my first question is, when was the last time or how often do you have? And they're paying me to be intrusive. So if they say, it's been years, that's a big, okay, there's something that needs to be turned on, literally here, a light to a pilot light to figure out why not. So I would say that's my first.
I couldn't agree with that more. And I will say, though, I do know people that started as couples, and I think due to their maturity, open-mindedness, a big picture thinking, they were like, well, we like everything else about each other. So they just kind of become friends, and they're able to manage that and not be jealous if the other person finds a partner with which they enjoy having sex. And I know people where that's happened, and their relationship just takes a different form and shape. You don't always have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So if the sex isn't there, I know people that have just said, well, maybe we're just better as friends, and they have a great friendship, and I've seen that.
But they're not romantic. They're not. Are they like?
No, it's not like they're living together and not having. But I just admire and respect people that are able to maintain a loving connection, even if it's not a romantic relationship. They love each other as dear friends, love doing all these other activities together. Maybe they even go on trips together, right? But it's truly just as friends.
And that's not answering the question, though. The question was, what are 3 signs that a relationship should end romantic?
Yeah. Sorry, that was just a tangent that I thought was uplifting to share that, hey, just because the sex isn't there doesn't mean you got to throw the person away. Another one for me is if you're dating that individual and you're talking about things that you want to do together, and you're constantly vetoing each other, like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't really want to do that. And then you're like, wow, we really don't have as much in common as we thought we did. And I think sometimes that can happen when in the beginning of dating and courtship, we maybe people please a bit and pretend to like something, say, well, I'll give it a shot and be open-minded. But then over time, if those interests aren't shared and you don't love doing, the same things together, or at least you don't have to love everything, but if there's not enough of shared interest in common activities, I think that's a sign that you can probably find a more compatible partner.
Mm-hmm. I think it's similar to what you're saying, but I'll like phrase it a bit differently, which is everything else takes a priority over spending time with that person.
Yes, if they're not making time, if they're not making time for you, and a beautiful time can literally just be watching a movie together, cuddled up on the couch. It doesn't have to be something profound and earth-shattering. But that quality time spent together, however it's spent, is so important. And if that person's not making you a priority, it probably means it's time to go back out into the dating pool. When I think about someone that I'm really excited about, the saying that comes to my mind is, let's do life together. And if they're not wanting to, do life together, now, you don't want to be with that person all the time, but if you're not seeing each other at least a couple times a week when you're dating and, getting to know each other, it seems like that it's a lower priority for one or both, of both parties in that relationship. And I think that is kind of a dead end street. It's hard for a relationship to blossom if one, or even if both people are like, well, let's give it a shot, but it's low priority for us. I don't see that. Where's there room for a spark? There's no oxygen to feed that fire.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good one. I remember, I think it was after the divorce. And I was dating someone, and after the third date, they said, I don't mind if I was priority 2 or 3, right? Kids, work, but I'm like priority 10. And I can't do that. And I was extremely appreciative because I wouldn't want to be with somebody who I'm priority 10, right? And so you're absolutely right. And I'm sorry, but at this point in my life, this is not a priority like yours right now. So it was a very illuminating. I didn't think so, but and that's the comment I get from people now. Like, why are you even trying to date? Your life is so full and you're so busy, and you can't even fit in a first date like for 10 days. Like, that just doesn't, and I go, now this may sound like that 50-year-old bachelor who says I haven't met the right woman, right? When you ask them why they've never gotten married. And it's similar. I'll say, if I meet someone that I am attracted to, body, mind, spirit, soul, I'm looking forward to giving up some of my jobs out of the 8 jobs, right? But until then, what I do 2 things and just keep myself open for the possibility of what line up, instead of 8 jobs I have 2 jobs, and then 6 of my jobs are my dates. I don't think so.
I'm in exactly the same boat with you on that. My philosophy is, and my answer would be the same. You've never had a relationship last more than 6 months, and you're 41 years old. I just haven't met the right guy. I've met, people who I thought were the right guy, but it wasn't right on their end for timing wise, or, they didn't feel the same way about me as I did about them. And that's fine. Their opinion of me is none of my business, but I feel the same way. My priorities are flexible. Nothing about me is etched in stone. I don't want to be so absolute in my convictions, beliefs, opinions, methods of doing things that I become inflexible to the prospect of change. Because frankly, I believe change is inevitable, whether you want it or not. I feel like we have this false illusion of control, over things. And the real nature of existence in life is constant change. And I think the sooner we embrace that, it allows us to ride that wave instead of being the salmon and fighting, swimming upstream. So just a quick aside on that, I think that getting to the point is about being honest with yourself and being, present with what the moment is guiding you towards. And it's good to have principles, but you don't want to be anchored down to them necessarily, because things change as we gain wisdom. Things change.
This is what I have against Till Death Do Us Part as well, because everyone changes. They're not the same person they were when you met them. And if you're fortunate enough to actually attract in the first place and move in the same rate, in the same direction, I mean, to think that that's going to be like that for the rest of your life, that sounds like a death sentence to me.
Well, and I think it goes against the very nature of human nature. I mean, sometimes you grow together, sometimes you grow apart. In the words of Frank Sinatra, that's life.
Yeah.
And
it's not a bad thing to grow apart. I mean, this whole phenomena of gray divorce, that was the other thing that someone wanted us to talk about, was this real new phenomena, and and that movie, if you haven't seen it, I knew I was going to forget, is exactly this. They got married when they were young, and they're completely opposite. They had lost a child. That was a spoiler. But 40, 50 years of marriage and looking at each other, and the woman says, I'm no longer willing to live like this, and it's a real thing. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Honestly, people, of course, are making judgments. How could you do that? I interviewed Toni Tennille when she divorced the captain after 39 years of marriage. She was one of the first gray divorces. And I applaud people who, it's not over. Life is not over. And if you're not happy 80% of the time with the person you're with, go to some kind of coaching, some kind of counseling first, especially if you have children.
Yeah.
And I know that I did everything I could before getting divorced, because I used this as a measure. Am I able to look into my children's eyes and say to them honestly, your father and I did everything we could to stay together, to be the best for you as parents. And we discovered and tried everything, but we know that we're better parents apart. And if you can say that with all sincerity, then that's my formula to answer the question for it's time to go.
I think kids make that so clear. They elucidate why it's important to not fight, not struggle, but put some work in before you pull the plug. And even without kids, I think the same can be said. You don't want to be too quick to quit, but you also don't want to, be trying to force a square peg into a round hole. You have to, you have to be honest with yourself. And that also means, do I tend to cut and run too quick, or am I someone that hangs on for dear life? Neither one is good. Find somewhere in the middle, right? And give yourself a shot. Speaking of giving myself a shot, I'm going to end on a funny note as one of my final words. There's this gay sports league that I'm about to sign up for and participate in. And what I love about it is I like to play tennis. The other sports that they offer didn't really appeal to me, but tennis I love. And you got to be pretty fit to play tennis. So I'd like that. Someone that's pretty fit and can hit the ball around with me. And the cool thing about it is you invite them out to play, and you can invite as many people as you want to, as many matches. And, they do have like a ranking system so you can get your competitive edge scratched. But the list of everybody is available as a roster. So I can go and look up some of the people and be like, well, they're attractive. I would love to spend an hour on the tennis court with them. So to me, as far as getting to the point,
doing what? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Finding out whether it's going to be a good match. Hey, we're doing an activity that we obviously both enjoy, and we obviously have that in common. I can look and see if I'm attracted to them. And is it maybe wrong to invite people out to tennis because I'm attracted to them? I don't think so, because time's valuable. And so I'll just go through the list, invite the attractive ones out, and have tennis matches with them. And that
literally a round robin.
I think it's a great first date. And, you've already cleared some things out of the way. And then from there, you can see what blossoms. So I'm actually really excited about upcoming dating prospects by doing this.
Yeah, you can see if you're staying within the lines, or if it's an out, or if it's love, or match point. I played tennis in high school on the team. So yeah, I'm with you there, but my hips don't lie anymore. Otherwise, I'd look into it's just tennis instead of it's just lunch.
That's right.
But I think that is a great, that's why, I was doing like those singles mixers or things like that. I've always had this desire to reach out to Bumble and say, hey, hire me as a social director to put events together for those in the geographic area that are using Bumble to come and actually, have a whatever. The reason why I don't, and this is to come all the way back around to our first topic, I can have a really good first, wow, this is great. And as from my experience, I can have two really good dates. And then the third date, there's something that happens when you get to know someone on the third date. And you begin to go, oh, wow, that wasn't what I expected. Or, oh, wow, I didn't see that coming, or whatever it is. So that's why I've never done it, because first dates are not reflective of whether or not you match.
I think a lot of the spark is just your own excitement about, hey, I'm out there, I'm doing the thing, and you're just excited about that, and you're in an optimistic headspace. But if the spark is, diminishing, dwindling by the third date, that's a sign that maybe it's time to, dip your toes back in, elsewhere.
Take that body part out of the dating pool. Oh my. All right. It's too bad. We're coming to the end here and I'm just like waking up. But it's been fun. Let's see.
It's been a trip.
For everything. Pardon?
It's been a trip, pun intended. Talking about the trip.
Yeah, travel after all. We don't have any more questions in the chat.
We do have a couple more minutes. I have an idea actually about that. So flying's out for now, but the beautiful thing about our state is that there's so much awesomeness within driving distance. And if you go somewhere it's just a couple hours away, you're not in for all this money for plane tickets and all, it's a lower barrier to entry. If you are dating a guy, let's say you're 10 dates in, Dr. Marissa, and you're like, you know what, let's see if we can tolerate each other there's so many cool places you can go for a couple days, just for a weekend and just drive to.
Yeah. Well, even a long drive, that's a good suggestion. If you want to get to know somebody without going on a trip first, is take a road trip together when you're stuck in the car. I'm so positive about relationships. I'm positive about everything else, but about this. So you're stuck in a car for 3 to 4 hours. That's a really good way to know if that person, if there's some things that are just your pointy parts are gonna stab each other.
Absolutely. No, it's true. My test, because I love to eat a really good meal, is if you can have a meal with them, have a 3-hour meal that feels like 1 hour, that's a good sign. Whereas if you're there for an hour and a half and it feels like 3, that's a bad sign. So one of my litmus tests is how much I enjoy breaking bread with that individual.
Yes. And then my Debbie Downer, sorry, Debbie, is that I did have that for 2 meals. And I didn't realize that, people look different in the daylight as opposed to the night. And the third date was in the daylight. And it was like, wow, I didn't know that they had a dicky do. Not attracted to dicky doos. Y'all know who've been in my stand-up audience what that is when your tummy stick out more than your dicky do. So
now, if you haven't got in trouble with the station yet, I think you accomplished that goal for today.
It's been fun.
As always.
It's been fun. I don't know if it's been real fun, but I want to thank you all for staying with us and being part of the fun here. Thank you, James Hawthorn, co-host with the most every other Friday.
Thank you.
It's all about, did you want a final word? We don't really have 20-second final word.
It was my tennis idea. Be creative, folks. Find some creative, fun ways that are efficient with your time to meet that dream person, and be honest with yourself so you know when to hold them and you know when to fold them.
and you know when now. You know when to poke them.
Oh my! What's in her coffee, folks?
No, I said pokey, like sushi. Anyways, it's all about balance. Peace out. World peace through inner peace. James, take us out, please.
Go and have the best weekend and best week ever.
Take back your life.